Okay, Chair, so we're live and ready to go.
Lovely, thank you very much, Alethea. Good morning and welcome to East Devon District Council's consultative meeting of the Housing Review Board on the 24th of March 2022. I am your Chair, Councillor Sarah Chamberlain, and I would also like to welcome anyone watching the meeting via the live stream. Based on the decision of the Council, we will continue to hold virtual meetings until the 11th of May 2022. I would like to remind both members and public attending or watching that this Council has delegated much of its decision-taking power to our senior officers. Consequently, this meeting is being held remotely and on a consultative basis only. May I remind members that the Code of Conduct applies throughout this meeting. We also reserve the right to remove and disconnect any participant who is disrupting the meeting by whatever means. Please turn any telephone devices off or to silent. The meeting can be viewed live online and will be recorded. Please bear this in mind throughout the meeting. In the event of a break in the internet connection, please bear with us as we try to reconnect. After 15 minutes, if we are not able to reconnect, we will consider the meeting adjourned and reconvene at a later date. If you wish to comment, please raise your electronic hand and wait to be called. We will now start the meeting by doing a roll call of committee members here present. Can you please now unmute your microphone, and when you hear your name, please confirm by saying present. When you have confirmed you are present, please mute your microphone again. I shall hand over to Alethea, please. Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Chamberlain.
Present.
Councillor Parr.
Present.
Councillor Pook. Stephen Beer.
Present.
Sue Saunders.
Present.
Okay. And we'll come on to apologies in a minute, Chair, but I've had apologies from the other members. So I can confirm we've got 4 members here present today and we are quorate.
Excellent, confirm. Lovely, thank you very much. Agenda item 1 is public speaking. We have 2 people to speak. I have Stephen Beer and Sue Dawson. So if we go with Stephen, you're first on my list. If you like, you would have 3 minutes to speak when you're ready.
Can I, unfortunately, can I leave that, please, Chair? Pass it on. It's being sorted out already by Sue. Thank you.
Okay, absolutely no worries at all. That's fine, thank you. So we'll go to Sue Dawson then. You have 3 minutes to speak, Sue, when you're ready.
Hello, thank you, Chair. Thanks for allowing me, all of you members of the board, to speak. This relates to agenda item 7. Having been involved with tenant participation for many years, and as an involved tenant, I find myself most concerned with the state of TP. It would appear TP is almost non-existent right now. Whether this is due to lack of support and commitment by those in housing or just plain good careless attitude, I do not know. What is very apparent, however, is the detrimental effect this is having on tenants and the service they should be receiving. At the moment, it seems to be little, if any, leadership from the top, with more senior managers, head of departments and lead officers absent for whatever reason. No organisation can function if those supposedly supporting it are not there to do the job. There can be no continuity within housing if most of the managers are absent and those left find themselves trying to cover for other departments. I'm aware of one officer covering not only their own department, acting as manager of several other departments because of absence of other managers. Tenants are having no input, with SRG seemingly abandoned, housing making decisions without any consultation with tenants. The years I spent attending meetings, training both in-house and outsourced, chairing groups, being there at the inception of new groups, DTCP and scrutiny are but 2. I chaired the housing magazine for many years, was involved with the community research group, which has now disappeared. Tenant involvement must get back on track. Using COVID as an excuse isn't good enough. The rot had set in before COVID hit. Housing must acknowledge tenants have a right to have a say and put their case forward and be heard. We spent too many years learning how to challenge, put forward our points and be listened to have that taken away by staff who seem to think they can do as they wish. This attitude seems to be filtering down from the very top management. It has to change. Tenants are not being given a voice. The only way tenants now seem to be aware of any proposed changes in housing is by reading it in the local paper. The repairs department is in disarray and seems to function in nothing but chaotic fashion. This brings me to our dismal repairs and maintenance contracts at Ian Williams. I have yet to meet any tenant who is satisfied with their performance. They are inept and incompetent. The list of failures by this company would take up the whole of the HRG meeting. Housing even have a recorded message when you contact repairs saying the main contractor is Ian Williams, and if you have issues with this, please inform the call handler when you put through. There was never a need for such a statement when we had two contractors operating repairs and maintenance contracts. I have seen with dismay some national news items regarding other social housing providers. The state of some of those properties is Dickensian, to say the least, and most of the problems arise from landlords not maintaining the properties in a reasonable condition. If EDDC keep the present contract for the next 7 years, then I fear our housing stock will be in the same appalling condition. Is this really what East Devon District Council want for their housing stock and tenants? There's a very urgent need for a full meeting, not only of senior managers, but councillors and most importantly tenants, to find a way forward. After all, we, the tenants, are the end user and ultimately gain or suffer from our housing provider decisions. To finish, there's a couple of quotes I'd like you to hear. With good industrial relations, you solve problems. With poor industrial relations, you make problems.
Sorry, that's your time up, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Sue.
Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you. Agenda item 2 is minutes of the previous meeting. If anyone has any comments on the set of minutes from the 13th of January 2022, please do this by raising your electronic hand. If I have no electronic hands raised, I will take this as an indication that you all agree the minutes of the previous meeting. I will just check that I have no hands. I see no hands raised. Thank you. The minutes of the previous meeting are agreed. Thank you very much. Agenda item 3 is apologies. Alethea, can we just confirm apologies that we have, please?
Yep, I've had apologies from Councillor Ian Hall, Councillor Brenda Taylor, Tenant Member Cindy Collier, Tenant Member Kat Summers, and Independent Community Rep Christine Drew.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Alethea. That moves us on to agenda item 4. That's declarations of interest. This will be done by a roll call by Alethea. When your name is called, please state your declaration, including which agenda item your declaration relates to, if it is personal or pre-additional declaration, and what exactly the interest is, please. Thank you.
So Councillor Chamberlain.
My declaration of interest is just that I also work for Exeter City Council in the Housing Department.
Councillor Parr.
None, thank you.
Okay, just check Councillor Pook hasn't appeared. No. Steve Beer.
None, thank you.
Sue Saunders.
Tenants.
Okay, that's everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alethea. We move on to agenda item 5, matters of urgency, which there are none. So agenda item 6, confidential exempt items. There are no items which officers have recommended should be dealt with in this way. And now matters for decision. Agenda item 7 is the forward plan. The forward plan will be presented by the Housing Service Lead, Amy Gilbert-Jeans, and the board will also consider a proposal form submitted by Tenant Representative and Vice Chair Sue Saunders. Over to Amy.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
we can, Amy, thank you.
I'm going to keep my camera off, as I say, because there's just a bit of bandwidth issues here, which is probably because I've got so many items open. So thank you, Chair. Good morning, board. So yes, this is our regular forward plan item. So you can see there all the items that we have ready for discussion today. We have a few there that I haven't put a date on, but by all means, I'm willing, if members want to highlight any key priorities, you'll see there I've put future meeting against garage sites suitable for development, review of downsizing grant, housing decarbonisation fund bid, and community development food initiative. They're all items that we're working on the background and going to hopefully bring forward the next few meetings. We've got Jo today as well, Jo Garth's joining us as our Housing Task Force Service Lead. She's going to talk to you about the work that she's doing, as a sort of introduction, if you like, into the first few weeks of her role. I know that that was something we talked about at the last meeting, but was requested today. So this is over to you really, members. This is your opportunity to tell us what you would like to see, and we will bring those reports forward.
Thank you very much, Amy. I will first invite non-committee members to speak by raising their virtual electronic hand. And once any non-members have spoken, I will then invite members of the committee to speak. Let's have a look and see who we've got. So I have no raised hands at the moment. Oh, we have John Golding.
Thank you, Chair. Just in terms of the comments that Sue Dawson made earlier and the proposal for a review of tenant involvement, really timely opportunity to do this, because having looked back, our resident involvement strategy was adopted by the board in 2019, and this covered the period of 3 years through to 2020. So we are committed to update that strategy this year, and I think we can, well, I know we can do that with tenants and ensuring that the issues that have been raised are picked up, and indeed other issues that Sue helpfully raised will be picked up as we go through the agenda today. And we have two colleagues from Ian Williams here when we come on to the, I think it's the next agenda item. So very happy with your approval, Chair, of course, to incorporate that proposal in the forward plan, and we'll get our officer team and our tenants involved in reviewing that resident involvement strategy, and I'm sure what that will do is rejuvenate, if you like, or recommit our absolute commitment to tenant involvement. And we have seen some examples of where we've done that in recent years, but I recognise, and probably others do, that we've probably lost a bit of focus on that. So this is an ideal opportunity to bring that focus back on what is an important aspect of our management of our housing stock. Thank you, Chair.
Lovely, thanks, John. Yes, indeed, more than happy for that to be incorporated going forward. Next, I have Councillor Helen Parr to speak, please.
Thank you. I was just going to ask that we incorporated that proposal, and John's actually answered my next question, which was, why isn't there an officer comment? There's no monitoring officer comment at the bottom there, or any officer comment, but obviously John has just filled that in, so fine, thank you.
Lovely, thank you, Councillor Parr. I have no, I do, I have Amy.
So I just wanted to come back on that because I wasn't sure in relation to responding to that, but I just wanted to make a note or just say on management and the comments that Sue made in relation to managers. I think the board will be aware that we do have a number of housing managers off at the moment. There's obviously some sensitivities around that, and you will respect and appreciate that I can't say a lot about that. It's not an ideal situation at all. When these things arise, we do have to pull in other resources, but I just want to reassure the board that that situation is being managed by myself in close association with HR, and we are doing everything we can to resolve those situations as best we can. We appreciate it is absolutely not ideal.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Amy. Thank you. Next, I have Councillor Arnott to speak.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'll only speak briefly and just to, I'm not going to pretend this is an area of specialist knowledge for me as leader of the council, but I have become aware, obviously, over the last 2 years that there are things we need to address. And I very much heard, I wanted to say what Sue Saunders has said today. And I will give Ms Saunders my undertaking that I will speak with officers after this, just to make sure, as I'm sure they will, that these actions that are being assured now will be undertaken. And we'll have an internal discussion at Cabinet about this in the next fortnight as well. And thank you. I know this isn't the first time you've brought this to our attention. As Amy has just indicated, it's a tough time for officers at the moment as well, and there are roles perhaps that are difficult to fill too, which I think has exacerbated matters. But I think you have concerns, you've expressed them around the contract, and I think it's legitimate for those to be discussed, and I would encourage that today as well. So thank you, Sue, very much, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Arnott. I think that was Sue Dawson that spoke first of all, confusing with all these Sues. However, we are now going to go over to Sue Saunders.
Yeah, it's encouraging what you're saying about, this new tenancy involvement agreement. It needs to go the whole hog. It can't be just bits and pieces. We need to get back to where we were back in the 2017, 2018. We need that involvement. That is the only way we can actually feel we've got a voice. And we need a new tenant panel where tenants can come together and discuss matters and actually raise issues with staff. So, that's the sort of thing we need, a proper tenant involvement. Okay?
Lovely. Thank you very much, Sue.
Okay.
So I don't see any more new hands raised. So Councillor Arnott, your hand is still up. No, it's gone. That's okay. That's brilliant. So I don't have anybody else to speak. We need a proposer to take this forward. Lovely, Councillor Parr. Thank you very much. And a seconder. We have Steve Beer. Lovely. So to take that recommendation forward. So we will now go over to, who do we have? Rebecca here? No.
It's Giles Salter, actually.
Oh, sorry, Giles, sorry. Apologies.
Yeah, no, that's just, so the forward plan is just basically setting the timetable for meetings going forward. There's no need to take a vote on that. We can just move on to the next agenda item.
Lovely. That's all right. That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Giles. So agenda item 8 we have next, which is the integrated asset management contract. The Ian Williams contract will be presented by the housing service lead, Amy. Ian Williams representatives is, I believe it's Kate Green and Aaron Kelly. Lovely, thank you. I've also attended today, so I welcome you to the meeting. But first of all, we'll hand over to Amy, please.
So, Chair, Graham Baker, the property and asset manager, is going to take this first part.
That's fine. We'll go over to Graham then. Thank you very much. My names are all wrong on my sheet.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Amy. Firstly, I'd like to welcome along the two representatives from Ian Williams, Kate Green and Aaron Kelly. And I don't know if it's opportune now for them to introduce themselves and just give a little bit of background into their roles before I go into the full extent of my report.
Yeah, I'm very happy with that. If they're happy with that, should we go over to Kate first?
Hi, hello everyone. Thank you, Graham. Thank you for having us here today. My name's Kate Green. I'm a general manager for Ian Williams. I work within our response maintenance department, and I cover a number of businesses along the southwest, all delivering the same type of product, not least one of which being East Devon. I've worked for our business for about 18 years, and I've worked within the sector for the same amount of time. And I form part of the core group with East Devon for this contract. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate. Shall we go over to Aaron next?
Morning, everyone. Again, as Kate alluded to, thanks for inviting us today. My name's Aaron Kelly. I'm the business manager for Ian Williams. So I'm responsible for looking after the contract on behalf of Ian Williams and East Devon. I've been with Ian Williams now around 16 years. Lots of experience in the local authority sector as well, really. So yeah, again, thanks for having me here today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. We'll go back over to Graham.
Thank you, Chair. The aim of this report is to provide an update on the current delivery of the integrated asset management contract and the good and obviously the not so good. Firstly, we continue to monitor the external influences that could impact on the delivery of the service, namely Brexit, COVID, and latterly the war in Ukraine. The detail is contained in the report, and these are issues that are included in our risk register that is regularly reviewed by our core group on a quarterly basis. So I'm not going to focus too much on those areas. The next part of the report focuses on the demands of the service in relation to reactive repairs and voids. Levels are generally as expected, with the year 3 directly comparable to year 1 of the contract. Year 2 was somewhat of an anomaly due to the direct impact of COVID. Again, the data is contained in the body of the report for you all to read and digest. In general terms, the void, planned works and compliant elements of the contract are working well and generally as expected, but we're of course aware of issues with reactive repairs, and I think this is where we need to take the opportunity to focus on right now. Since the last HRB, the level of work in progress and overdue jobs has risen and is above that expected and desired. As a result, we are seeing the direct impact of this with an increase of calls from tenants chasing jobs, as well as an increase in complaints on the basis that tenants are waiting too long for jobs to be completed. To fully understand the problems in this area, we have and are continuing to carry out detailed data analysis to identify the reasons and trends for the current high level of WIP and overdue jobs. Among the issues identified as causes are incorrect application of operational processes on the part of both Ian Williams and ourselves, particularly the variation process, extension of time process, and this is also followed on by less than desired standards of communication when issues do arise. Jobs are being incorrectly marked as work completed on the system rather than stage completions being applied, particularly when follow-on works are required. Jobs that have been completed have not been closed down correctly, meaning they remain open on both the WIP and the overdue jobs lists. The delivery of larger scale and complex repair jobs that extend beyond the contractual 28-day period are also proven a challenge, and we've recognised that one of our failings is communicating these facts to our tenants and keeping them fully updated, and that's measures we're trying to address at the moment. The sourcing of resource, both direct resource and subcontract resource, to deliver some repair jobs, which ultimately leads to delays and frustration. The sources of components and materials to carry out specific repairs. Some materials are proving quite challenged to obtain, and long delivery times, where they could be expected to arrive in a week, they're taking up to 6, 8, 12 weeks to procure at times, which is obviously impacted. The levels of WIP and overdue jobs is a particular concern, and we're now working closely with Ian Williams to undertake a detailed review of the delivery of reactive repairs to ensure that we meet the headline aim of right repair, right time, fixed and stay fixed. The areas that will be subject to this reviewing will include, but are not restricted to, diagnosis, appointment, right first time and stay fixed. Initial findings suggest that a number of the problems exist that need to be addressed, ranging from too many chasers required in relation to repair orders and in some cases recalls, missed appointments with no communication with tenants, insufficient time allowed to carry out specific repairs, material availability, resource availability, subcontractor support, subcontractors not necessarily adhering to the contractual protocols and timescales that are in place, management of subcontractors, systems and contract resources not being used correctly to deliver the contractual requirements for repairs, poor communication across all areas. The aforementioned issues have been discussed at length between both parties, and as a result, we have developed an action plan to address such issues. Work is already underway and includes updating existing process to remove the possible areas of failure, updating IT processes and automated communication across the interface to cut out errors, staff training with a focus on diagnosis of a repair and raising the orders correctly with the focus on appointing at the first time of contact, greater use of the duty surveyor role to improve the diagnosis and ordering of complex repairs, staff training to ensure all the processes are being delivered correctly, a focused delivery on the more complex repairs, ensuring that realistic deliverable plans are in place for such repairs, and reportedly such plans are communicated to our tenants so they have a full understanding of the work required and the timescales. Better communication across the organisations, including detailed record keeping, better communication with tenants to ensure that they are fully aware and understanding if their repair cannot be carried out for any reason, has to be postponed, and where follow-on works are required. Both parties and organisations are committed to driving forward with these identified areas of improvement. The action plan contains a lot of jargon, but I believe it has been issued for information and to demonstrate that every issue is being explored and measures are being put in place to drive forward improvement. The issues identified directly impact on customer satisfaction and complaints. The report highlights the figures, data in these areas, which you can review at your leisure. Of particularly concern to us is the demand being placed on our property and asset management team, particularly our business development and customer improvement manager, in having to intervene to manage issues to prevent needless escalation. We consider to be a waste on our side for that member of staff. We believe the review that we are currently undertaking and the action plan being put in place to address identified issues will assist in reducing the waste and demand and allow us to focus on delivering an improved service. As the measures are put in place, we will closely monitor the demand for intervention to ensure that this is being reduced. If the expected improvement does not arise, then further reviews will be carried out and measures implemented. Although hard to capture, we are fully aware of a general feeling of dissatisfaction from our tenants, mainly around responsive repairs element of this contract. This has been picked up through various avenues recently. Preventable complaints, as an example, preventable complaint could be where we or IW have failed to communicate with the tenants around a repair that will be undertaken and completed. We have been made aware of negative feedback from members representing tenants and members feeling they need to get involved to chase individual cases. On a recent site visit by senior housing leadership team, tenants were asked in general face-to-face for their reviews on the service. Disappointingly, 100% of the feedback was negative. At the previous Housing Review Board meeting, we acknowledged the negative feedback given by one of our tenant representatives that directly related to our contractor Ian Williams and the overall service we offer, and hence the measures that we are putting in place to try and address these. In order to give us more evidence of these areas, our information and analysis officer is being tasked to undertake a survey that will give every tenant the opportunity to tell us how they feel. The information will include requesting and the assistance of tenants to help formulate the survey and the questions in order to appeal to all and encourage feedback we require. The action features highly in our improved action plan. We have recently attended the first service review group that's taken place since the COVID pandemic, and we are very much looking forward to working with the membership of that group to both understand the issues, they understand the way the contract's managed, and importantly to improve the service that we deliver. Other areas that are being explored is general reminders regarding the delivery of the contract by way of specific publications, for example, Housing Matters, tenant workshops or drop-in sessions across the district to allow us to meet with tenants and understand the issues and maybe give them advice on how the contract actually works. A member workshop for our councillors so they can fully understand the delivery of the service and the challenges that we face. Another area, customer satisfaction remains a challenge. Our business and customer improvement manager has visited a number of residents, both active members and those who are not involved, to discuss ways that we could better collate such satisfaction. Currently, we collate satisfaction by paper surveys. We accept that they may not always have been left, but we've now requested that Ian Williams take a photograph of every survey that's left with tenants to ensure that we can evidence that the surveys are being left. Following voids, we're leaving a new home survey for the incoming tenants to complete. Post inspections on voids are carried out, and also on reactive repairs by our surveyors. Customer satisfaction is carried out via telephone calls. Our team are targeted with contacting 20% of tenants that have had jobs carried out on a monthly basis. In addition, Ian Williams also carrying out telephone surveys of 20% of the repairs carried out, and their operatives are also asking tenants to complete a satisfaction survey on their PDA advice on the completion of the job. And again, we're aware that that's not always happening, but hopefully we've put measures in place to address that. This report has highlighted a number of areas of concern. One of our main areas of focus currently is improving customer satisfaction. The meeting of the core group on the 2nd of February focused on many of the areas highlighted in the reports, and members of the group spoke openly and honestly about where improvements are required. We remain encouraged by the approach taken by our contractors, Ian Williams, with a clear commitment and recognition of the areas that need to be focused on. The action plan is our starting point. We now need to drive it through. And finally, the action plan is being closely monitored by the core group so that we can focus to ensure areas are being improved, and where necessary, extraordinary meetings of the core group will be arranged to ensure focus is maintained. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Graham. I'm sure we will have quite a few speakers to speak. First of all, I'm going to go to non-committee members. So first on the list, I have Councillor Dan Ledger, please.
Thanks very much, Chair. And thanks very much, Graham, for a very honest report, I think. I've got a fair few questions. Just looking at the report, you can note how you've got a seriously high number of repairs that are happening across the service, and it's a testament really that we're keeping up with those repairs at the moment. When you're speaking about jobs not being correctly either shut down on the system or being inputted incorrectly, would you say that's mostly down to user error, or is it the system that we're using? And do we as an organisation need to look at system processes and potentially getting a new CMS in to actually rectify that issue? My next question is to do with vacancies. How many vacancies do we have currently within the service? And more specifically, how many surveyors do we have currently employed in the asset service as well? Next question, and do you want to answer these in turn?
Yeah,
do you want me to?
Can I try and answer them as I go?
Yeah, sorry.
I think your first question, I think the majority of the issues are around user error. There are areas in the system on the automated interface that aren't working correctly, which we're looking to address. One of them, for example, the extension of time process, the variation process. There's issues on both teams, but it's generally, I feel, more human error than the processes that are built into the system. Your second question on resource, within the property and asset team, we currently have 11 vacancies, 9 of which are technical surveying roles. The property and asset team is built into 5 sections. So we have a reactive repair and void service, and that currently has a manager and 3 surveyors. We have a plan works and climate change team, and that has a manager and 2 surveyors at the moment. We have a compliance team, which again is a manager, and there are 2, 1 surveyor and 1 technical support officer in that team. And then our customer service desk, which has 5 repairs advisors who are generally on the coalface selecting the service. I've highlighted the 11 vacancies. We're about to launch a focused recruitment drive, which HR are leading on for us. So hopefully that will prove success. We're going to have our own focused micro recruitment site. I believe it's dedicated to East Devon Council, the housing service, and specifically property and asset. So we're hoping that will breed success. On the flip side, our cyclical service compliance and cyclical servicing manager will be going on maternity leave in approximately 10 weeks. So that's a post that we have to fill urgently. We've got a number of CVs that we're currently reviewing on that. So hopefully we can get somebody in place before she goes on leave. But recruitment is a challenge, and it's putting a huge demand on the officers that are in place trying to deliver and manage the property and asset service on our side.
Graham, just further to that, so just so that I've got it right, so that's 3 surveyors sorting out over 12,800 reactive repair jobs each year.
Yeah, and voids.
Is that tenable?
The service has always run on 4 surveyors, so we're currently 1 short at the moment. Yes, we believe it is tenable, but I mean the proof will be in the pudding, I guess, that we can drive forward the improvement. So
okay, and then just lastly on vacancies, before I've got a few others, and sorry, Chair, just have to indulge me. How many do we have that are actually at job evaluation, and how many are at advert out of those 11? How long have we had those vacancies within the service?
We tried a recruitment drive last year, which proved not successful. We did pick up 2 surveyors, which have been good, but not necessarily through the recruitment drive. They came more via an agency. We've had numerous agency surveyors over the last 6 to 9 months. They've moved on to pastures new or proved not really up to the job. All the paperwork and everything has been approved, so it's just moving forward with recruitment now. So hopefully, as we get, hopefully we'll get some applications come in and we can fill the posts, quickly. But obviously, we'll be looking for some tenant involvement when we carry out interviews with the respective surveyors. But appreciate it's going to be a big demand and request on tenants to assist us with that area.
Very much. I'll just cover off the last 3 very quickly. So with regards to our actual contracts, what are the terms that East Devon put on Ian Williams currently for them to, what are basically their set dates for completing any repair? So that's the first one.
Generally, they have two criteria. There's a 4-hour emergency repair or a 28-day standard repair timescale for completion of a repair. The KPIs are currently suggesting that the majority of repairs are completed in around 12 days.
So with regards to that though, how do you say the storm damage that requires scaffolding? You can't do that within 4 hours. So realistically, they could wait up, our tenants could be waiting up to a month with a hole in their roof.
I think the requirement is under the emergency to make a property safe and watertight and weathertight. But I accept your comment, and that's one of the areas where we've identified where we should be moving quicker with the repairs to address such issues. So yes, I take where your point is coming from, and that's an area that we do need to improve on.
Perfect. And then with regards to our voids, how many voids do we have currently in the system, and how many, more specifically, how many long-term voids do we have across that we've taken out of circulation? And then my last question is, as a percentage, how many of our reactive repairs come under price per property and price per voids, and how many are percentages, how many are exceptions to that. So just roughly, what's the difference of exemptions and what we actually getting in under the contract that we've signed originally. And that's me done. And sorry, Chair, I've taken over for a little bit, but thank you, Graham.
I believe we've got 2 long-term voids. One's a major one, which we're going to use as a flagship property for climate change works and fabric upgrades, air source heat pumps, etc. With your other questions, I'm really sorry I haven't got the data to hand to be able to answer it accurately, but I'm happy to provide that information outside the meeting if you
Really appreciate it. I'm putting you on the spot here and apologize for doing so. Really appreciate it.
I'm happy to have a separate conversation with you, Dan, and share quite a bit of data that we've got, but I haven't got it all to hand. So if you're happy, I'm happy to either have a call outside the meeting or meet you or whatever. So I'm really sorry I can't provide.
No, definitely, that's really appreciated. Thanks for all the detail. I'm sorry for putting it on you. Thank you very much, Chair. Sorry.
Absolutely no problem at all, Councillor Ledger. Thank you very much for your questions, and thank you very much, Graham. Next on the list to speak, I have, let's have a look. So we'll move on to Steve Beer, please. You're on mute, Steve. Steve, you're still on mute. Steve? You're still on mute. Steve, you're still on mute. I think what we'll do while Steve's on mute until he comes off of mute is we'll move on to Sue Saunders, if that's okay. Sue, you're on mute as well.
Right. Sue? Yeah, I'm going to be as much nuisance as previous speaker. I'm going page by page here of this, Graham. So page 15, the COVID thing. Item 6 on that, all methods of communication are fine if you have a computer and you are sighted, and as long as you are not dyslexic. What is wrong with one-to-one communication via telephone with a tenant who is waiting to have a repair completed? I suggested when I was last involved many moons ago that each person, when they sign a tenancy agreement, cites any disabilities they have, dyslexia, blindness, deafness, mental health issues, whatever. And that disability comes up on the screen whenever they contact East Devon, i.e. then the people who are taking these calls know exactly how to deal with that person, be it by letter or be it by phone or whatever other methods there are. But just confining everything to computerized systems is not fair on tenants. Not everybody's got a computer and not everybody has a smartphone. So those people are totally excluded. So that's my first question or remark.
So can I just say, would you like some of these answered individually if you have quite a few? Or
yes,
would
I'm
you
quite happy to. Well, look, if I do page 15.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That's all right. I didn't want you to go through a long list and then
miss any out. The only one on page 15. So yeah.
Okay, Graham, did you want to say anything to Sue about that? Just one thing I would say is that I'm fully aware that the open housing system that the council uses should have that facility, and I'm sure it's something, I've got Sophie nodding her head there, that you should be using anyway, but I'm sure Graham will confirm that.
We do use that when the indicators come up. Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I'm happy for Sophie to make any further comments, but yeah, that's what we use, and we can only use it if the indicators are on the system.
Yeah, but it should be something that's picked up when they sign their tenancy agreement. It should go straight onto the system. that way. There's no, you know.
Yeah, Chair, can I just jump in on that as well, just to say I absolutely
Yeah, of course you
agree
can.
to. Yes, absolutely agree. That's a really valid point, and it's been raised to us recently that we do need to look at this to make sure that it is happening when residents come into the service, and that we are picking up all of that information, and that's then being reviewed on a regular basis as well. We've had some instances where we've recognised that some information has been on there and it hasn't been updated regularly enough as well. So I absolutely hear your comments on this, and it is an area that we need to focus on to make sure we get it right. I will say that we, in terms of pushing ourselves too much down the digital route, it's always been something, as you know, and when we had resident input procuring the contract, there was options around making apps and having self-user systems for people to log in and use complaints, to log repair complaints and log repair requests. What we said all along is that actually we wanted to make sure that our phone lines are always open and that residents can always communicate with us in that way, because not everybody wants to use an app and not everybody will be able to go on the internet and do that. So although I accept that the phone is still an issue for some people and there are other ways around that, we are committed to making sure that those channels are always open and that we don't ever go too far down the other route. Because of our demographic, we know that will exclude people. So you have our, the full commitment on that.
Right, thank you. Page 16. I would like to qualify that statement where work is completed first time, there are no problems. We agreed, if the work is completed to the standards required, no problems, nothing will happen. But if the tenant is not satisfied with the work done, that's when the problems start. When problems start. With no feedback forms, the tenant is faced with having to make repeated phone calls without success. And then finally, the job is redefined as a new repairs request. I think the record to date is 2 years to get a job done properly. I do, however, know of a lady who is registered blind who actually gave up with the repeated request and has spent 7 years having to walk across her kitchen floor in the dark to get to the light switch, and she is partially sighted. Now, it's not good enough, 7 years, right? So that's that, and then I would also say...
Shall I comment on that now?
Yeah, okay, yes.
Shall I comment on that now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. So see, that's absolutely not good enough, and I'm horrified to hear that 7 years.
Yeah.
Obviously, we can't talk about individual cases in this forum, but if you would want to get the details of that one to me, I will personally follow up on that one and make sure it's done. I think Graham mentioned about the process of feedback forms, and we've been looking at this, and we are looking at this very carefully at the moment, and we accept what we have done perhaps it is not working in every instance. And what I've asked to happen is this much wider canvas a much wider opinion across all the residents, and give every resident the opportunity to tell us how they feel about the repair service at the moment. And I've asked Natalie, our information analysis officer, to lead on that, but I've asked her to do it in close connection with the repair service review group, because I do not want us asking questions. I want residents to help us ask the right questions in terms of extracting the information that we need from people to tell us why they are unsatisfied and what we can do about that. So that is a big piece of work that's going on in the background, and they're looking at trying to engage as many people as possible in that process. And as Graham said, there's going to be a few drop-in sessions thrown in, because we appreciate that people may just want to come along and have a chat with us about it as well. So we're sort of covering that off. We're also going to address the survey from the residents themselves, because in the past our experience is that sometimes if people think they're talking to the council, they may think we're just doing it as a bit of a tick box exercise and that we don't want to listen to what they say. So we thought tenants talking to tenants would be a much better approach to take, and that's why we've engaged the repairs review group to hopefully help us on that, and that survey will come directly from them in an attempt for us to engage as many people as possible in this process.
Can I just say on that point, we are having a Have Your Say leaflet in the next magazine with a prepaid envelope for tenants right across East Devon to have their say, compliments, comments, complaints. And we're asking them to fill them in and send them back to us. And we will collate all the information we get and bring it back to the board at the next meeting.
Which is excellent as well. And that, I think, will complement what we're doing.
Yeah.
What we're concerned about, though, if we only rely on that, we do know that there are a lot of residents that don't necessarily read the magazine.
I know.
Therefore, they wouldn't pick that up, which is, you know, unfortunately. So that's why we want to do something separate. There was a suggestion that we just rely on the housing matters, but I'm so concerned about this. I don't want to just rely on that. I want to do a separate survey, which is costly, but it's, you know, and I've been challenged on that, but we do need to do this, and that's why we're going to do it this way.
You're never going to get 100%. Nobody will. There's always the apathetic area, right? Anyway, all right, that's fine for me. I'll let you have details about that lady with the light switch. Yeah, I'll refer to item 9. I refer you to my previous statement for item 6, i.e. computerisation. Item 12.10, what's Brexit got to do with anything? I mean, I know delivery of goods and things, but has it really made that much difference to the housing repair service?
Yes.
Graham, do you want to answer that one?
Yes, it has. With the supply of materials, there's been lots of material shortages across the board, with plaster, with doors, with kitchen fittings, with boiler components, electrical equipment. I mean, the list is
endless.
The list is endless, to be honest, and things are improving, but in certain areas there is still some quite major issues with procuring materials.
Okay. Thank
Can
you.
I just come back on that one as well? Just to mention that obviously where we have had some jobs where we've not been able to get hold of materials, and as I say, there's been a Brexit impact on that. But one thing you would have picked up from the report, Sue and members, is the creation of a minor works team, which is something additional that we have worked with Ian Williams to put in place, because we recognise that this is part of the problem. So where we have a responsive request and we send somebody out, when that operative turns up and they realise it's actually a much bigger job than what they first envisaged, that's where some of the problems are coming in, and what we're seeing in terms of needing to diagnose that better. And what that's then actually leading to is a much longer wait. And it can be jobs like that where there can be material problems. So that then creates additional delays on top of that. And what we need to do is manage that much, much better. So the team at Ian Williams have put in place what they are calling, and Kate may want to just comment on this now, the minor works team, which are going to be a sort of subgroup, if you like, to come in and deal with those scenarios. And we have emphasised the importance of communication in those instances. So what is absolutely critical is before the operative leaves that property, that the resident is absolutely crystal clear what is happening, whether there is a delay on materials, whether there is a delay, there's a shortage of labour, whatever it is, and however ideal that may not be, but unfortunately that is just reality sometimes. The critical thing is that the resident of that property needs to understand what's happening. And we have emphasised that with Ian Williams. And we have asked for assurances around that being done. And we are making our own checks into that to monitor improvements. But I think the development of a minor works team is a really, really positive step forward. And I'm not saying we're there yet, but I think this is one issue that's going to really help us. And I may actually perhaps just invite Kate, if I may, to just come in on that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Amy. Yeah, I think just briefly touching on the Brexit scenario with the material shortages, it also, as a knock-on effect, has had quite a considerable impact in terms of resource as well. There's a lack of resource in certain different areas, whether it's hospitality or driving, etc. And that has kind of diluted our workforce a little bit because there's vacancies in other areas. So another knock-on effect, which has been quite considerable of Brexit, is the labour pool itself. But referencing minor work specifically, we have recognised that we have a lot of work coming through which is external to the PPP model. Actually, it falls slightly outside because it's generally the larger things. And historically, maybe those repairs have been issued or sent through in maybe a more fragmented approach, maybe a number of jobs at the same property. Yes. Because of the way they come through, it's quite difficult to collate them all. So we end up with a scenario which is poor, but a scenario where we may send somebody out and they'll do some of the work, and then the tenant will want to know what's happening next, and that particular resource may not know when the next job is booked in or who's coming next, and basically the communication totally falls down. So we've established and are in the process of continuing to establish. We have a core team already, and we're bringing more into that team who are dedicated to delivering we call them minor works, so larger response jobs. And the premise to that is they go out, they look at it, and they go out, they speak to the tenant, they inform them what the process is, how it's going to work, what to expect. They put them in direct contact with our CLO, so they have a one-to-one relationship with a direct number. They can speak to our CLO. If there's any queries, any concerns, they've got one single point of contact within our organisation that they can go to. And these works, generally speaking, are larger, and therefore, generally speaking, depending on their urgency, might take longer to deliver. But the most important thing about their delivery is that A, it's done properly, and secondly, the tenant and the household is fully communicated every step of the way and understand what to expect and when to expect people. Yes. So there's no grey areas. And we really think that is going to considerably help on some of our problem jobs, maybe where we get more aggravation because people are quite understandably upset that they don't understand what's happening. The other effect of creating that team is that we remove those larger works from our operative diaries as such, which enables us to free up our response resources to deliver response works without the impact of larger works going into the diaries, because when that happens, it delays the other generic smaller response jobs. So our plan is we have a team, they're dedicated to delivery of the larger works functions, and then the rest of our core operatives stay on response, delivering response, and that enables us to get through the work quicker and reduce that WIP that we have at the moment.
There's one question I will ask you. Is this business of an operative coming and doing a certain amount of the job and then leaving, job done? Now, that in the past, that has taken that job off the system. It has been closed. So the tenant then is stuck with half a job done, and the rest of the job has disappeared into the ether. So they spend a lot of time just trying to get the job finished.
Yeah, and absolutely, that is not the right approach. And there is an element, we have had a high turnover of resource because of various circumstances, and I think that's a kind of it's an education. That shouldn't happen. You know, if it's a case where an operative goes to a property and they can't deliver the full package for whatever reason that may be, whether that's skill set, whether it is actually a plaster job with decorations have to be done afterwards. They need to be aware of the process. There is a process in place. The process is they contact our hub, they make an appointment with the hub whilst they're on site for the follow-on repair to come through, and that's done with the tenant, so they know what to expect and who to expect, and they're going to be coming. So, and also there is a close down process on our system, which is electronic from our side, but it's a case of making sure that all of our operatives really understand exactly which buttons to press to make sure that those actions follow on once that job's gone back to the hub.
Yeah, that's lovely. Oh God, I've eaten my words. No, it'll come back in a minute. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, again, item 6. I'll keep going back to item 6 because that's the computerization thing. Page 18, from item 19 onwards, I refer to your page. Oh, great. well, let me just read what I've written. I would add that a great many problems could be solved quite easily if they would only shut down their computers and consult the tenants. But we're already discussing that. I'm just reading what I've written. Right, carry on. Page 1920, item 26, the bullet points. I find it quite insulting that the blame for void costs has been placed on the back of tenants. I accept you will encounter some properties that have been ill-used, but I will not accept this condemnation of tenants as a whole. Why won't you accept that the loss of the void costs comes from the properties being left empty for months at a time? A bungalow at the rear of my neighbour's property has been empty for 4 months and they've only just started work on it. So that's one of my bugbears, right? So, but for tenants to be blamed for the voids for taking so long.
Can I just comment on that?
Yeah.
We're basically left with a situation, the amount of rubbish and debris, etc., that's being left in the property, which is not a relation to the condition of the property at all. It's just that is just a fact of how the condition of the property is left. So, you know, I'm only stating fact there, and I will be happy at the next repair service review group to show you a number of photographs that highlight the conditions of the way properties have been left.
Well,
you know,
there's a couple of items around that void thing I want to discuss at the next SRG anyway. So
yeah, that's fine. We'll look forward to it.
I'm sure
as I say, the photos do.
Yeah, I understand, but it seems pretty naff to blame the entire, everyone of them.
Yeah, I just to comment on that as well. I think, Sue, I don't think that isn't. I'm sorry that you look at it that way. It's not our intention in any way to look at a blame, culture. But I think what Graham is obviously highlighting there is just that we seem increasingly with void properties we're having them left in a poorer, I say, condition. As I say, what Graham's relating to is often we will go in and they will just be full of rubbish or debris and it needs to be cleared. We're seeing much more of that in terms of the way that the properties are left compared to what we used to see. I think that's the point that we're sort of trying to make there, and that is very time consuming, and sometimes we have to get specialist contractors come in to help with some of the waste removal, and there can be quite complex issues around us needing to do that quickly, and it delays to a really not ideal at all, but it delays to a delay at the start, leads to a delay at the start of the process where we can't actually start work as quickly as we'd like to. But I'm sorry that you see it that way.
It read,
like that way.
It's the tenant's fault.
Yeah,
anyway,
no, I understand that. I'm sorry.
Item 30 on the same page. What's a compliance tracker? Can somebody explain a compliance tracker to me?
Go on, Graham.
It's basically a way that we monitor all the areas of compliance across the team. So gas compliance, electrical compliance, Legionella, solid fuel, lift servicing, stair lift servicing, overhead hoist servicing, to ensure that everything is carried out and within the required timescales.
So they're tracking the Ian Williams, not the tenants, not the work. It's tracking all the areas of compliance, fire alarms, smoke detectors, because obviously they've all got different servicing timescales, and we need to ensure that we, as far as we humanly can, deliver on all those areas of compliance. That's fine. It wasn't quite. I just didn't know what it was they were tracking.
No, we're not monitoring tenants. We're monitoring compliance to ensure that all our services are compliant and safe, and our properties are safe for our tenants.
Okay. Well, the other thing I was going to say, because I didn't know whether it was to do with inspectors, but I know of 2 experienced people who are quite keen to become tenant inspectors, and they, with the aid of a checklist, would be able to perform pre and post void checks. The post checks will pick up on anything that had been overlooked and any shoddy workmanship before the new tenants move in, because there's a lot of tenants moving into supposedly repaired or ready voids, and they're finding problems when they move in. So tenant inspectors, easy enough to train. Some of them are ex, workmen, were ex builders. So they have got the experience. So I think that ought to be looked at.
We would welcome the names. We've been trying to get tenant inspectors on board for a number of months. So if somebody
well,
can
you had
provide us
one
with them,
bloke at the service review group the other day who said he would like to do it.
yeah, which we're already in contact with.
Oh,
so
you
Sophie's
have?
trying to arrange that, but you mentioned the second person. So yeah,
Yeah,
if we can
I'll contact him and just make sure he's up for it. I'm not sure he would be, but he is a builder by trade, so it'd be ideal. Right.
We have done this in the past, just for other board members' information. We've had very successful tenant void inspectors in the past.
Yeah.
We had a really good programme going a few years ago where we had one for East, one for West, and they were an excellent addition to some of the checks that we do on voids, gave us really good insight, picked up issues that officers wouldn't necessarily think about. So I think it's an excellent suggestion too. And
yes, it also take the weight of the
on that.
It would also take the weight off the surveyors. I mean, if
they couldn't do it I would just put a caveat on it to say they couldn't do it instead of a surveyor.
No, I realise that, but for a simple job.
But they can definitely complement the work that the surveyors are doing.
Okay.
Sorry, just to add to that, we've historically we've had tenant inspectors working with us on voids on other contracts of a similar nature, and it's always worked really, really well. And they form part of that process and had been part of weekly void meetings and feeding back the concerns or the areas or the good news that they find, and also really help in terms of new tenants as well, in terms of expectations, because obviously there's a void standard. So it's about understanding that and communicating that out as well. And it's always worked really well historically.
Well, it was one of your promises at the conference that tenant inspectors would be available, and also, or will be trained rather, and also feedback forms. They're thin on the ground. Right, sorry, we'll forget that for a minute. 21, sorry. Of course, the work has been done. If the work has been done well, then there's no problems. I've lost myself. Sometimes. But sometimes, when the work hasn't been done well, sometimes after years of waiting, when it's finally come to an end, they are happy that the job has finally been done, but it doesn't mean they will forget all those years of waiting or all that time of waiting. People haven't got that short of memory. So it's not just going to go away when the job is finished. If they've been waiting, it's still going to be there, that problem. Right, para 3, item 35, the handyman service, right. It could be better publicised by informing the MSOs that the service is now up and running again, because the majority of tenants who make use of the handyman are in sheltered or supported housing. So it would be good if the MSOs could pass on the information that the handyman service is up and running. So, all right, that's another one.
Can I just come in there? Yeah. We've fully told the MSOs that the service is up and running. We've publicised it in Housing Matters magazine, but the demand on a monthly basis remains so low that we can't even engage a dedicated handyman. The contract's committed to providing 2, but the demand on the work at the moment, we're averaging about 15 jobs a month.
Right.
So
I found them very good. I don't know why.
As I say, the service is there. We would love to roll it out, but we need the demand.
We'll keep pressing for it.
And anything you can do in that area to help publicise it, absolutely fantastic.
We will
thank you.
Put out feelers. Right, 22. What are repairs raised? Is that the ones when they're first phoned in about, oh, sorry, my brain's starting to go to mush. When a person first phones up, is that a repairs raised? It's only terminology.
Yes.
But, hang on. I think it's tennis, Matt, unable to capture for, sorry, I've made notes and I can't remember what it's about. Well, it appears we're actually going to be consulted when our help is. When is our help going to be requested? I mean, we are going to be consulted with the repairs and maintenance group, but when is our help, other than that, going to be requested? And as in, can you come and help us to, design a feedback form or contact tenants or speak to tenants on your behalf? We are here to help contact tenants alongside you. We want to become a board that is working on behalf of the tenants, but in conjunction with officers. So we need that sort of link between us. Don't answer that one, because I don't think it was a very good question. Anyway, right, next step. Why aren't tenants invited to take part in this core group meeting? How else are we going to learn where the problems lie, and how can we resolve them unless you ask your customers? So this core group, is this Ian Williams, yourselves? All you mentioned is a core group meeting. Our tenants.
So core group is a sort of level of governance in the contract, if you like, Sue.
Yeah.
So obviously every contract has to have sort of layers of governance, and core group is, for this contract, the sort of higher level of governance. So on that group sits John Golding as strategic lead, myself as housing service lead, Graham as property and asset manager, and then we have Kate and Aaron from Ian Williams. And then what we do with core group, and the constitution allows us to sort of invite in any experts or specialist speakers that we need to, as and when we go through. So we meet quarterly, but at the moment, due to the concerns that we're dealing with and that we're talking about today, we're meeting on a more regular basis. So Graham referred to a meeting in February that we had. That was an extraordinary meeting that I brought forward in order to discuss some of the real concerns here. And we're tasked with making sure that the overall delivery of the contract is happening. And obviously with what's happening at the moment, that's a key concern for the core group. And there's some stuff in the report around what we're doing about that, hence the action plan that we've got to put in place. And the core group are monitoring that action plan now very, very, very closely. And there's another extraordinary meeting where we're going to do a sort of check-in and review on where we are with the action plan. And that action plan, as we've given to you today, captures all of the issues that we know we've got here that we need to deal with. So I think that's a super suggestion in terms of perhaps as part of our next core group, if tenants would be willing, maybe members of the Repairs Service Review Group would be willing to talk to the core group. That could be a good plan.
That would be great.
Happen, no problem at all. And I will just say on this as well, I know that, and this refers back also to what Sue said in public speaking, that there was a meeting has been requested. Sue and I had some dialogue on that over email, and I know that she wanted or suggested the meeting should take place in June. I actually think June's too long, and we should have the meeting a lot sooner than that.
Well, we wanted to collate the information we get back from that have your say stuff before we actually came to a meeting. We want to come fully equipped with what we are dealing with before we actually come to you as a group.
Okay.
That was the reason for the
That's
June.
fine. I just suppose with the urgency of the issues that you're raising, then I would sort of welcome a meeting sooner, because I know obviously, as Joe and I spoke to you last week, there's a lot of information that you've got anyway, but we can talk about that outside of the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, we perhaps can have a pre-meeting if that's what you want, but the actual big meeting, we want to get as many tenants along as we can, as many officers as we can, and really have a damn good go at it, all together. Anyway, I think that's me now. One other thing, can we have a copy of the action plan come to the service review group, please?
Yes. Yep.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'll shut up now.
Thank you very much, Sue. No, thank you very much. You brought some very valid points forward for us to all have a look at and all be involved in going forward. So that's brilliant, and I welcome it very much. Thank you, Sue. So next on the list, I've got Stephen to speak. You're on mute. If we can get you there.
Hello.
Go.
Sorry about that. And
fine.
good morning, everybody. Data. Dan Ledger was saying earlier about a lot of data. If you go to residents or any tenants or anything about data, they'll say, what the heck are you talking about? So all I'm trying to say is this, that there's a lot of kind of like people who I know and where I set up a local group where I live, and they are saying that they're not very happy with Ian Williams at all. They are kind of like, they are wanting to be kind of, they want to find out what's happened, because every time when they say surveys are being taken out or posted or people visited, there's no one come to their door at all. This is not very good on Ian Williams. Also, what I'm trying to say too is that they were also asking if somebody from higher power, say, can talk to these tenants, because there are major concerns with ID, not showing ID at the door, which ID should be shown before any of them come into any of the properties. Also, there are kind of complaints being made about workmen, shoddy work, locks not being done properly on doors, also paint being left on carpet, and a 90-year-old person, an elderly lady, what happened was someone came in the door for her, left some paint on the carpet. This is no good. This is shocking. And also what I would like to say is that the system needs to be looked at altogether. And telephone survey, well, I haven't had no telephone survey, and some of the tenants around us have neither. So there you go. Also, the last point I want to make is this, that I also asking if the surveys supposed to be going out, where are they and when were they delivered? We didn't get anybody from email. There was no email, or no one even posted them, not the MSO. That's all I've got to say. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you ever so much, Stephen. There's some points there that we can definitely pick up on, ask about, especially the ID that should be being shown at every visit. So thank you very much. Next on the list, I have John Golden, please.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to make just a few points, perhaps at a high level, as well as acknowledging that we need to address all of those issues. And I saw Kate's hand go up quickly, that might be able to address some of the detail. We've reported to the board regularly on this contract, partly because I think it's the council's biggest contract in value, even exceeds the refuse and recycling contract. And what you've got before you today, I think, is a very open and honest appraisal of some diagnostic work that Graham and his team have done over a number of weeks, and incorporating feedback from tenants and listening to tenants that have expressed some dissatisfaction about the service. What you've also got before you is an acknowledgement that improvements are required to the performance of the contract. And we've got a strong partnership arrangement with our contractor, which gives me confidence that we will be able to deliver the improvements that we all are seeking from the contract. And that brings me to the action plan. So the action plan is our effort to identify the areas that need to be improved. I've not heard anything in the debate that suggests that we're missing and we haven't picked up any of the issues. But my request to the board and particularly through our tenant reps, is please look at the action plan, and if there are any perceived gaps in that action plan from the experiences that you've identified already, then we'll fill those gaps. We'll complete that action plan, because that's our commitment to improve the service. And that action plan has been developed with Ian Williams as well. So we are both organisations are committed to implement the actions in that action plan to bring about the improvements in the service. And we're very happy to go and talk to tenant groups about that and to do some facilitated work if that helps to ensure that that action plan is complete, and we need to then get on and deliver it. We recognise the urgency in delivering, as I think Amy said a little bit earlier. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, John. Next on the list, I have Councillor Parr, please.
Thank you. And I'm just wondering, looking at para 47, there's obviously been complaints coming in which are supported by councillors and members of the council, and I'm wondering whether an in-depth analysis of complaints has been carried out to see whether these are coming from certain areas of East Devon, and whether this is over all of the areas of East Devon that these complaints are coming from, because I haven't had complaints to me. In fact, I had somebody ring me up because she'd had such a wonderful response when she had suddenly no cold water in her property, and the department was round there in several hours sorting it out, which was excellent. So I mean, I can't see any sort of area analysis to see whether there is a focus in one area of East Devon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parr. I wonder, Graham or
Chair,
Amy.
I could pick that.
There you go, John.
If I may.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, John.
So yeah, really good question. In terms of the action plan that I referred to, that is informed by our analysis of complaints, both formal complaints and informal expressions of dissatisfaction, if you like. And so far, I've not detected any particular geographical dimension to the complaints. We have done quite a bit of analysis of complaints, and Graham summarised the issues that seem to be going wrong in the report, but yeah, no specific geographical dimension to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John.
Chair, can I just pick up on that as well?
Yes, of course, Amy.
What John said, thank you.
Yeah.
Just on that, yeah, so analysis of complaints is really, really important to identify what's going on here. And again, I agree, there doesn't seem to be anything geographically going on, but there is, and I think this is backed up by the action plan, a theme. So and that in this instance, that's good, because we are identifying what is going wrong, which means that we can put it right. And some of these key themes are around communication, particularly with residents on the ground. And so when you look at that analysis of complaints, which we've been doing in the background, and we see the similarities across the board, that's actually, although we'd rather of course not be dealing with it, it's quite reassuring to see that we are picking up and we are able to understand and therefore deal with where the complaints are. It's always difficult when you can't do that and something's going wrong, but you can't quite put a finger on what it is. But I think what's becoming increasingly obvious, certainly since I've been dealing with this since I've been back, is that I can see clearly where the problems are, and we therefore are in a position to be able to resolve them and hopefully move them forward. And as we've said, and as John said, there is an absolute commitment from myself and the leadership team to do that. Thank you, Chair.
That's lovely, Amy. Thank you very much. Next on the list, I have Sue Saunders, please.
Yeah, a couple of things. The action plan that you've come up with, the reason I wanted it brought to the service review group is because I have made several points within that action plan, but I thought I'd talked enough today. So I thought we could do it at the housing and the service review group. I mean, nothing major, but just a few points I've picked up on within the action group. And the other thing, I think, Councillor Parr, we've had people bringing in from Gittisham, Honiton, Axminster, Sidmouth, Otterton, and the Exmouth area as well. So it's a pretty widespread problem. It's not just in one particular area. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue. Next, I have Councillor Megan Armstrong, please.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. I've waited until hopefully near the end of this item, and listened to what everybody's been saying with great interest. And there are a couple of points that I really wanted to raise. One is that regarding the tenant involvement, I mean, both of the Sues on this call are aware of my involvement in the past, way many years ago when I was not a portfolio holder, and how enjoyable they were actually, those meetings, and how we could all be honest and discuss with officers what concerns there were. And I really enjoyed them, and I thought it was a really good way of keeping in touch with tenants. And I know COVID seems to be an excuse for everything, but it certainly isn't an excuse for not being able to have those. And personally, I would like to see something like that again, along with all the other suggestions that have come forward this morning. And as soon as we're able to meet people face to face properly, that's something I think we should be aiming for. So I really appreciate that. I think it's really important that we listen to the residents, what they have to say, and take their issues seriously. And I know that officers do. And officers have been under a lot of strain. I'm kept fully aware of all the various issues within the various teams, the lack of resources, the lack of personnel, illnesses, and all of that, it all impacts on the service. And I think we just all have to be aware of that. And I know that Amy and her team, Graham and his team, they're all working towards ensuring that we have a good service. And John obviously has overall control of that. And we are aware of the issues. So I just wanted to say to the tenants who are on this call that you certainly have my backing. I hope you realise that you've always had that backing from me to support you in whatever ways you feel is appropriate. But we have to move forward positively. We have to hopefully air all these grievances, these concerns, and then look forward and hopefully, move towards a better place in future. And just one comment about Ian Williams. I've also been fully aware for quite a while now about the concerns with the Ian Williams contract, and kept up to date by Amy and other officers. And I just wondered, I wasn't sure whether at this meeting, because I know we've got the two people from Ian Williams with us now, whether Kate and Aaron are wanting to comment any further than they already have done about the issues which have been mentioned today. And I think it would be good to hear, if there's time to do this, just briefly from them at least, to give some reassurance from them about their commitment to improvement. I think that needs to be put on record at this meeting, that they actually have a commitment to improvement as soon as possible. I realise that they have had issues. They've probably got personnel issues, the same as the rest of us, and resource issues, regarding the materials and so on. And Graham has already discussed that about Brexit and so on. But I think it would be really good for them to say something briefly, Chair, if possible, just to say that they are fully committed and it's put on record at this meeting, and that we can move forward positively with them as well. Thank you for letting me speak anyway. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Armstrong. I have a great big paragraph written in front of me, which you've just taken many lines from.
Oh,
it's absolutely fine. No, I was something I was going to do at the end, but I see that Kate has put her hand up to speak. So just before Kate does sort of speak, I just wanted to say that this has been, I know it's been a long conversation between everybody and officers and councillors and tenants involved, which is fantastic. But I think, I know we have some issues here to sort out, definitely, but I think it's positive that this has been really open and honest from everybody that's been sat here. Everybody's together. And without the openness and the honesty from everybody, we wouldn't be able to move forward. So I think what we've got now is actually everybody together. We know there's issues. We know they need sorting out. And we'll go to Kate in just a moment for that reassurance from, as it's been said, one of the council's biggest contractors, that we really do need to know going forward that things are going to improve. Yes, they need to improve in many areas, but I think with us all talking together like we have today and talking together going forward, and I would really welcome any members of the board, tenants, officers, even councillors, if there's anything in that action plan going forward that we've seen today that has been missed, now is the time. It is the time to bring it forward, for us to go forward and get these things right. This is a huge contract. It is a contract that is very important to the council and the housing revenue account, and it does need to be right. And going forward from this conversation today, that is what I am very hopeful of. We've got some very good skilled people within this group, knowledgeable people, and I have confidence that actually from today going forward we can move forward and sort this out. So with that in mind, I will now pass over to Kate from Ian Williams, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to briefly respond to, I think it was Stephen who mentioned some concerns earlier, just to say that none of the things you've mentioned are acceptable and we wouldn't expect that behaviour from our operatives. I can't deal with any individual items on this call, but if you're happy to pass over the details to East Devon, then we can certainly pick them up and look at those as individual items. And also, mentioned you formed a group of tenants with consent, and I'm more than happy to arrange the time to pop out and see you and have a chat, just go through these things and just kind of air some stuff and have, a face-to-face conversation about it, or if you think that would be something that would be welcomed. Yeah, so in terms of where we are and our commitment, I think I just want to say that we're absolutely committed to working in partnership with East Devon. This is a large contract for us. We understand that things have not run as smoothly as we'd like, and we understand that there have been mistakes made, and we're also acutely aware that a lot of this relates to the way we communicate and how we engage with tenants in relation to jobs. We've worked very hard with East Devon to pull an action plan together. It's not related to a specific item. There's a number of items that we need to cover, and I think that's evident in the action plan. There's lots of different areas, and all of it is within our contract. It's part of our proposal, part of our proposition, and really it is now making sure that we are delivering on all of those promises and we are acting on all of those areas, and that we communicate with our teams, that we communicate with our tenants better, and that we put process in place to improve the things and the areas that we've fallen down. And we absolutely, as Amy said, in terms of widening the pool of feedback from tenant resources, we're absolutely committed to that, because the more people we can have feeding back into the service, the easier it is for us to identify the areas that we need to improve. I think reputationally for us, this isn't the position we want to be in. I think we deliver lots of good things, and then obviously lots of things which are not working quite according to plan and where people are unhappy, and it's those those areas that we really just need to fix. So we're committed to working with East Devon. We recognise this is a long-term partnership. We aren't here to fail for you. We are here to succeed. And yeah, I think we've worked quite hard to identify the things we need to work on. We've got lots of things going on in the background to do that. We have struggled with our resource. It has been an ongoing situation, but we've worked really, really hard to get in the right people that we need on the ground to deliver the work, and we'll continue to do so. Yeah, but we're absolutely committed. We see this as, you know, the long-term opportunity that it is, and we're at this point, and it's a shame really that we've kind of got to this point, but I can see lots of positives coming out of it, the collaborative working, the areas we've identified, and I think there's it's all for us to play for, really. I don't know if Aaron wants to add anything to that. I'm aware I might be stealing your thunder a little bit, Aaron.
Aaron, did you want to come in and say anything? Just want
yeah,
to
I just wanted to summarise, if that's okay. Just yeah, totally agree with Graham's report, and really touching on the tenant involvement part, which has been something for us that's been really key. So obviously we've not been able to get out into the communities and engage with tenant communities really because of the obvious COVID reason over the past couple of years. But one of the things I just wanted to let the group know is that we do have a customer liaison officer within our team. And as part of our role, which we established a year and a half ago now, was for our client liaison officer to actually attend some coffee mornings with residents, to go to some of the resident participation meetings as well, and actually hear from the residents about the service in general. So what I'm really keen to do with our client liaison officer over the next 6 months, and in conjunction with you guys, is actually get her out and about into the community, feeding some stuff into us as well. So again, you know, we can have constant interaction into the community to understand, you know, the good things that go on, but also the stuff that needs improvement as well. And then from a team perspective here, you know, I don't doubt the commitment of the staff in general here. I think we've worked tirelessly over the past 2 years now to make this service as it should do really over the past couple of years. But again, we recognise, you know, there's things that need to be improved on, and hopefully now as we come out of the COVID situation, we can really drive that forward, especially with resident participation as well. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Aaron. So next on my list, I have John Golding.
Thank you, Chair. Very quickly, and I should have said this earlier, in terms of perspective, you'll see from the report that there's something like 13,000 jobs undertaken per annum. The vast majority of those jobs are undertaken perfectly satisfactorily. What we're focusing on, quite rightly, is the areas that have gone wrong, but they are proportionately quite a small number compared to the number of jobs we do each year. But we need to get that right. We want 100%, or I want 100% satisfaction with this service. Tenants pay for. So, you know, understandably, we're focusing on getting that performance up to a level that everybody's happy with. Thanks, Chair.
Lovely. Thank you very much, John. Next on the list, I have Councillor Arnott, please.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Chair, very much indeed. So I'll try and be brief as I always try. First of all, thank you so much, Graham, for an incredible report, really, in full and necessary detail. And I welcome, Chair, what you said about us, you know, moving forward from this point. And I'd like to thank the tenants for all of the input they have had today and in the past as well, which have to be heard. And I'd like to live in, you know, in the happy world of, you know, some councillors who aren't troubled too much by complaints about what's going on in our council housing stock. I have to say, I hear them every single day. They're referred to me by other members of the council. So look, what we have to accept here, And because there's been, there's been some lovely, supportive, happy, clappy talk, hasn't there? So that's great, and we all need to have that. But I'm the leader of the council, and what I've heard today is absolutely devastating. I would have wished to have heard it much earlier. I cannot understand why we haven't got key performance indicators listed in this report. And I think we need to, and funnily enough, I remember asking a question about this years ago. This is, as has been said by John Golding, our biggest single contract. As the suppliers, Ian Williams, with whom we wish to have an ongoing, entirely productive relationship, you've got a cracking, juicy contract, haven't you? You've got 7 years left before we can even look at somebody else for it. I mean, to a certain extent, we have to, I think, East Devon Council itself, look internally and take responsibility for quite exactly what controls we have now over this contract, what we have had in the past. And although it's always nice to receive reassurance, oh, this is doing well, and I get John's point, the majority of stuff, of course, happens well. There's a huge amount that doesn't. I almost laughed out loud when I heard the bit about, we either fix things within, was it 4 hours, or we fix them within a month. Where are the sort of conditions that might have obliged us to fix things in 7 days or 14 days? And you can see in that very aspect of the contract how many problems have been caused by people. And, I don't want to list them here. There are so many examples of people who have been left in deep distress with mould, with leaks. I've seen them. I've seen the evidence of these with my own eyes. And I'm sorry if I seem rather bleak here, but I think I need to reassure the tenant members here, and indeed the public, that we will have in the next week or two an internal meeting, and I will chair it, between our most senior officers involved in this and the councillors who I think could be most help. And we need to have a seriously good look at this. And I can understand and I hope, Chair, you'll be able to join that, because we cannot allow this to go on. We cannot come out of this meeting clapping ourselves on the back saying, well, that's great, well, we've understood this and we've got a grid here of who's going to do what, when, what the outcome might be. That isn't any good. We are in a position where our council tenants, many of them, are obviously suffering. And I'm afraid if I was in the position of the Ian Williams team, I wouldn't really feel the pressure because of the sheer length of the contract they've got left. So I think it's down to us internally as East Devon to try and work out what we must do to try and get this fixed. And when I say get this fixed, I don't mean in a month's time, I mean urgently. We need to be meeting again in the next month, perhaps two, and have some very different answers to those that we've heard today. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Arnott. I have Steve next to speak on the list, please.
Hello, thank you very much. Thanks, Paul, for that. We just, as tenants, just want to kind of we just want answers. That's all we're after. We just want assurance from everybody, kind of councillors, Ian Williams, that, when somebody calls, whoever it is, young or old, that we will get answers, we will get the work done, not shabby jobs, but proper jobs that every resident tenant can be happy with. People are so fed up where they are at the moment. I don't want to go on being gloomy, I'm not a sort of person to be like that. But at the end of the day, we're paying rent, and we need to kind of get our jobs done, not wait for 6 months, 7 months, like some people are. There are damp problems all over the place. There are loads of problems at the moment. Loads of repairs need to be done. We just want assurance. Please come and help us. We need your help. That's it.
Thank you very much, Steve. Next, we have Sue Saunders, please.
Me again. Yeah, I'd just like to thank Councillor Arnott and also Megan for their support. If you're going to have these meetings with the senior officers, will tenants be informed of what occurs, or is it possible for tenants to actually attend these meetings?
I think that would be a question to Councillor Arnott, if that's okay.
Yes, thanks, Sue. I think we need to get our own house in order very urgently before then engaging with you, if that's okay. We've just got. I think we've heard the problems, but we've got to get get on with this quickly with a sort of quite light team to start off with, and then come back to the committee, I think, and to yourself. Thank you.
But will we get a report of what happens at these meetings?
I wouldn't enjoy the next meeting if there wasn't a full report about that, though.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue and Councillor Arnott. Next up, I have Councillor Ledger, please.
Thanks very much, Chair. Hopefully it's the last comment, probably. In previous reports with the asset contract, we've had a KPI traffic light system. Do you think that could be brought back in subsequent reports? I think it was very useful just on gauging the performance of Ian Williams against the contract. Usually it works fairly well, and they are meeting a lot of the KPIs, but it gives, I think, a lot more confidence to the group, and I think that would be really helpful to the board moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ledger. The KPIs is something that I would like to see, not only just for the asset management contract, Ian Williams, but actually for compliance and things going across the whole of asset management. And I believe it's something that is done already. I would hope so. And it's something that I think that we should be bringing to the board each time anyway, so we know where we are on all aspects of asset management. Thank you very much. Next, I have Amy to speak, please.
I was just going to say on that we, I suppose we can forward on the KPIs straight away. We always have them, but we wanted to focus the debate today on the stuff around customer satisfaction, which is why we sort of focus the report just on that area, so that we could really tease some of that out. And I wanted to do that for the residents, so that we could talk directly and openly about some of the issues that we've talked about today. But of course, the KPIs are important. We do have the KPI pack that we always have on this agenda at the very end. But in terms of the KPIs, we can send them out today to members in relation to this contract.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Amy. Next on the list, we have Councillor Parr, please.
Well, I was just going to ask, we've got this item 18 on the quarterly performance indicators. Why aren't there these ones, but you're saying that you will bring them forward?
I think that...
Yeah, we have. Yeah, there's a whole set of KPIs just about the integrated asset management contract that haven't been included in the appendix on this. So, but we have them live, so we can just send them through. We'll get that done.
Councillor Parr, has that answered your question?
Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Parr, has that answered your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I have nobody else listed to speak on agenda item 8. If I see no more raised hands, Giles, do we need to verbally confirm the motion to go forward?
The suggestion of Councillor Arnott will be obviously minuted, and no doubt officers can convene that meeting with various councillors, but the actual agenda item is just to be noted.
Just to be noted,
that the issues are being dealt with, and then obviously from an operational point of view, members and the officers can meet to sort of, as it were, set an agenda to ensure that those issues are brought forward in a timely fashion.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much, Giles. I see Councillor Parr's hand has gone back up again.
Yes, sorry, Chairman, just to say I will have to leave the meeting soon after 12.
Thank you very much, Councillor Parr. That moves us on then to agenda.
Sorry, as Chair, can I just say, if Councillor Parr's leaving the meeting, then we won't be quorate.
No, we won't, will we? Okay. Shall we keep going, Zoom on as much as we can? We had this problem last time.
Yeah, we've got,
which is concerning.
We've got, it's now 10 to 12.
Okay, so from a point of view of what we've got on the agenda, should we just keep going through them in the same order whilst we are quorate?
Yeah, just keep going as far as you can, and if we have to then move things on to the next agenda, then we have to.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll move on then now to agenda item 9, which is the social housing white paper, and this is to receive a report from Amy, Housing Service Lead. Over to you, Amy.
Yeah, Chair. Thank you, Chair. So I'll try and keep this brief. I'm jointly presenting this item with Sue Saunders. So I'll do a bit of scene setting, set the context, and then I'll hand you over to Sue. Yeah. So members will be aware, in August 2018, the government published the Social Housing Green Paper, which was titled A New Deal for Social Housing. The Green Paper was a direct response to the fire at Grenfell. And it set out some key principles to underpin, and those were to underpin safe and decent housing, ensure that residents are treated with dignity and respect, and that we have the social housing we need in the future. So it took a while for this to run through. So 2 years after the Green Paper consultation ended, the government published its Social Housing White Paper, which hopefully board members have now had a chance to read. That's titled the Charter for Social Housing Tenants. And what the Charter sets out is the government's proposals for ensuring that social homes are safe and secure, that social housing tenants receive adequate information about their homes and landlords, and that they have a robust redress system when things go wrong. Many of the measures outlined in the Charter will require primary legislation, and so this won't come into effect for some time, so it's important to manage that. But in terms of feel in the sector at the moment is that this will be legislated pretty soon, so I think we can expect it within the next few months. The aim of the Charter is to speak directly to tenants, and that is because of the shortcomings in safety regulation that was highlighted by Grenfell, and that was not only about the condition of some of the homes, but also about the treatment of tenants and some of those absolutely horrifying stories that came out afterwards. So the Charter itself, as you can see in the report, is set out in 7 specific areas, and Sue, in the minute when I hand over, is going to talk to you briefly about each of those areas from a resident's perspective, which we thought would be useful. This new approach is a chance for us to take a fresh look at ourselves. This cuts across all of the work that we do, and it will impact, the issues in this paper will impact all of the whole of the service, and that's really welcomed by us. Sue Bew is our Housing Services Manager, so you'll probably be aware that she's off at the moment, but she's been working with residents for some time on this, and she's already been starting to study it in some detail. And so that's why today I'm delighted to hand you to Sue, who's been working already with our Sue Bew on this. And she's doing that today on behalf also of Kat and Cindy, who are the other tenant representatives on the group. They obviously can't be here at the board today, but Sue's going to talk on behalf of all of the residents from the board. So I've cut that down quite some, but I'll hand you over to Sue at this point.
Yes, I have just a list of Kat and Cindy's remarks. I don't know if you've seen the paperwork here, the coloured boxes that you have on your agendas, yeah? Yeah, well, each page is a different type of, question they've asked. So Kat and Cindy have said, sheet 1 and 2 mention links with resident involvement strategy. The tenants have recently reviewed. Also, the responsible person needs to be sufficiently high up to have authority over all teams, and the nominated person must have the required technical background and experience to cover the health and safety responsibilities. My remark was, I agree with the views of my fellow tenants, but I would like to see twice yearly fire drills in multi-occupancy buildings where tenants are most at risk. And these training should be done by a trained fire officer. That's from an ex-health and safety officer at rest home. Sheet 3, this looks at how this links with your findings on the designated tenants complaint panel. Managers should lead by example, especially with being accessible and good communication. Make sure your teams are following suit and performing well in this area. Communication is key. There are many complaints about safety, even if not officially categorized as compliance, e.g. damp, and these should be dealt with quickly and safeguard the health of tenants. My response is, 2, 3, yeah, dealing with complaints. To begin with, the tenants' complaints have no place in the corporate complaint system. I keep banging on about this, but it is one of my things. They should have a housing only complaint system, shouldn't go through the corporate. I'm abridging most of what I've said here. Anyway, sheet 4 is the area of respect is so linked with complaints and how these are handled. Sorry, I'm reading, I don't. Training is required for all staff, but especially managers and Ian Williams contractors too. Managers should lead by example, not bounce complaints back and forth across teams. Disrespectful to ignore the requirements of the resident involvement strategy. Residents have a lot to offer, interview panels and consultation on reports to the board. My thing is to be treated with respect. It's not surprising that the government are now bending over backwards to appease tenants. It seems that they need a tragedy to kick them into action. Lack of respect manifests itself when tenants are being fobbed off with platitudes, and it's obvious their problems are not being taken seriously. Staff need to have training in listening and understanding. Lack of respect goes deep and is widespread when you are a council tenant, and we should not find this amongst the housing staff. Sheet 5, sorry. Service review groups are useful and tenants add value to the service. Tenants want to see the repairs groups reinstated. Right, that's their thing. And you say you seek tenants' views, but there's no mention of tenant consultation at the beginning of this report. You have a list of 9 different departments, groups, etc., but no mention of tenant involvement. And yet there was tenant consultation with this group, but we weren't mentioned. Where are we now? Item 6, the group. Building Safety Act and the Carbon Agenda are key to this theme. Right, so we have 2 sentiments are highlighted in this section. Fairness and best outcomes. I know housing officers are between a rock and a hard place when it comes to housing hard to place people, but I beg you, do not house them among elderly or close to young families. You use the word fair, but fair to whom? You say best outcomes when you are fully aware in 90% of the cases, the outcomes will be disastrous. You talk about creating environments to aid people with mental health issues, but placing people in mismatched communities will certainly not help their road to recovery. I don't know what the answer is, or even if there is one. All I ask is that the greatest care is taken when making a decision. 7. Do tenants know who they go to if they want to talk about plans for making more stock available? Some have good experience to bring to the table. I'm sorry, I don't quite understand that. Right to buy, well, the heinous scheme was a money spinner for Maggie Thatcher's government, and I suppose it is still bolstering government coffers, but no government is going to miss out on such a lucrative source of cash. not content with selling off desperately needed social housing, the government then helps itself to the lion's share of the purchase price. I don't know how they sleep at night. Who could have seen that what would happen? Obviously not then. Why didn't they realise that the dwindling supply of social housing would eventually fail to keep pace with homelessness? And perhaps they did know and they just didn't care. After all, it's down to the councils and housing associations to make sure people are housed. It's not a government problem. Then to crown it all, MPs have come up with another blockbuster of an idea: build more houses. Brilliant. But leave it to the landlords to deal with the details, where and how to pay for them. So you can see I'm not happy about that. Right, I think that's the end of their thought. I did have early thoughts, right? I thought it was unfair that East Devon housing should be subject to the regulation of government again, given that they paid an exorbitant price to become self-regulating. However, having returned to tenant involvement after the 5 years absence, I was appalled by the lack of tenant involvement, consultation and communication. So in my view, the social housing regulator is a great comfort. Okay, that's me.
Thank you very much, Sue.
Okay.
Amy, did you have anything else to add to that? No, that's all right. So we'll go on to any speakers we have. I don't have any hands raised at all from outside the committee or inside the committee. So did you want to say something, Sue?
Yeah, I just wanted to say we did discuss perhaps having afternoon meetings, because a lot of the tenants can't make mornings. But we did discuss perhaps the possibility of having afternoon meetings.
It's not something I can do or change at the moment.
No,
but maybe going forward we might be able to look at something.
Yeah. And one of my fellow tenants can't make mornings at all, so I'm losing a tenant here. You know, well, we're losing a tenant. Yeah.
I know it's hard juggling everything sometimes with jobs, children, and meetings and things.
Yeah.
But we'll do the best we can.
Thank you.
Moving on to Councillor
Sorry,
Parker.
Chair. Sorry, I think
Amy.
I had a problem, Chair. Sorry, with
That's
sound.
all right.
I don't think you could hear me. So yeah, I just wanted to just very, very briefly just thank Sue for those comments. We had a really productive meeting, Sue, myself, Cindy, Kat and Joe Garfoot last week, where we went through each of these in quite some detail. I think from our perspective, you know, as I said, we see this as an opportunity. We see this as a fresh start in terms of this charter. Many of these issues chime with us. There are some really good examples of stuff that we're doing really well. Equally, there are some clear areas for improvement, and we are completely committed to working with residents on bringing that forward. Part of the reason why Sue Hughes was working with residents on this in the first place was because of the importance of getting residents' views on board from the very beginning. And Sue has, say, the two Sues have been working on that for some months together. I'll leave it at that.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Amy, and thank you very much to the Sues for working on that. Next, we have Councillor Parr, please.
Well, so it sounds from what Amy said that they're already implementing the recommendation, or at least they're a long way along with it. They've examined the report and they're identifying things that need further action, which is excellent. And I'd like to propose the recommendation that we note the contents of the report.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Councillor Parr. Do we have a seconder for that? There we go, Steve. Thank you very much. And we have Sue with her hand up again. You're on mute. Sue, you're on mute.
I know.
Oh.
I was just seconding the motion.
All
right.
Thank you very much, Sue. So that is noted first and seconded. We don't need to take it to the vote, do we, Giles? Are you there, Giles?
Yes, sorry.
That's all right.
Sorry. Trying to speak to the principal solicitor at the same time. Sorry. Sorry, I missed what you wanted to. What you were.
So we're on
asking.
agenda item 9.
Yeah.
And Councillor Parr has proposed to acknowledge the report, and it's been seconded by Steve. Do we need to go to the vote on that as well, or just note it?
It just needs to be noted.
That's all right. I'm just checking. Just checking. It says on mine members to vote. I'm just checking. Okay, that has been noted. I do have Steve's hand up though.
Sorry, just a quick one. Yeah, just to say, like, if there are any kind of like meetings going on with any tenants, I would like to be informed, because we've got to move together. You know, not just kind of like separate groups. It would be helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely, and I'm sure that Sue will ensure that Steve is informed about that. She's on mute.
Yeah, I know, it's all right. Yeah, I mean, obviously, once we get ourselves really organised, then it will go out to all tenants. There will be, you know, all the different groups will need tenants on them, because there are a lot of different groups. Some of them are decision makers, others are sort of proactive like groups doing stuff. So we need tenants involved, and the more people you can talk to, the better, as far as we're concerned. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Sue. So that would move us on now to agenda item 10, but I am aware that it's 6 minutes past 12 and Councillor Parr has indicated that she needs to leave the meeting. Is that still the case, Councillor Parr?
I can stay for this item.
Fantastic, thank you very much, that's brilliant. So we will move on then to agenda item 10, which is the annual report of the Housing Review Board. And it says the chair will present, although my computer's gone to sleep.
Chair, I can help, perhaps.
There you go. Thank you very much, John. My computer's gone to sleep, which doesn't help. I'm really sorry. I'll hand you over to John.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. Alethea produces this report for us, which I'm very grateful for. And what it does do is summarise the work of the board over the last year. And you can see from the report that there's quite a diversity of things that the board have undertaken over the last year, from service planning type issues, budget monitoring, and then a whole series of strategic and policy type issues, including oversight of performance and activity within the service. And you might recall that we updated a whole series of policies that are on our website. We've got quite a number of policies in housing relating to our landlord function, and many of those have been updated during the course of the last year. So I think that report's just for noting, Chair, and we bring this every year to the board just as a reminder for the amount of work that the board gets through each year. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you very much, John. I have one speaker, which is Sue. You're on mute. There you are.
Yeah, mental health is survey number 9. There's no mention that tenants were involved in that strategy. We actually was consulted about that strategy. So it would be nice for tenants to be recognised in reports and what have you. It gives other tenants confidence to join us. They see we're doing stuff. So please try and remember to include us in reports.
Absolutely, Sue.
All right.
That's fine. So that report's just to be noted. Councillor Parr, can I squeeze in one very, very quick one as we whiz through that very quickly? Thank you ever so much. So that report is noted, and now we move on to agenda item 11, which is the Housing Task Force, an introduction. And I wanted to move on to this quickly because Jo has been sat here, bless her, waiting to give a quick report. So I'm going to pass over to Jo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Well, good afternoon now, isn't it, everyone? Yeah, just a very brief introduction about the new team. We've been in operation for a month now. We're in the recruitment phases for the additional roles. The team currently consists of myself and also Melissa Wall, our enabling officer. Adverts have gone out for the development surveyor. We have so far been unsuccessful in being able to recruit to that post, but I'm talking with colleagues in HR as to how we can perhaps spread the net a little wider to encourage a broader appeal for that. So just to keep it in a nutshell, for those of you that don't know, this team was brought into existence as a result of a social housing task and finish forum that was chaired by Councillor Dan Ledger. And throughout that, we were discussing the implications of the right to buy on our ability to meet the needs of our housing needs assessments. We're really struggling. We've lost a significant number of our social homes as a result of that. And as a result of the findings and the recommendations that came out of that task and finish forum, this team was proposed. It will be funded for the next 2 years, and it has two sole aims, really. The first one of which is to facilitate a step change in the delivery of new affordable, and also with a bias on social housing units. We're aware that for a lot of our community members, affordable housing isn't exactly affordable, but we know that social housing is. So there is a huge bias on us trying to deliver more social housing units. And the other remit of the team is to write evidence-based strategies to support that in the future. As I'm sure you can imagine, development is a very long-term process. So we will be building up a pipeline development programme and also a 30 to 50 year housing development strategy, and also working very closely with our colleagues in housing. We will be writing a very robust active asset management strategy on the back of the stock condition survey that we've got, that will start, I believe it starts next month. So in a nutshell, that's what we will be doing. As time is really short, if anybody has any questions, please pop your hand up. I'm more than happy to answer any.
So hands up. I have one hand up from Steve.
Sorry, Chair. The answer's already been answered. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you ever so much, Steve. I don't see any more hands up at the moment, Joe.
Excellent.
Thank you ever so much, though, and exciting.
Sorry about the whistle stop tour.
Absolutely fine. No, it's fine. At least we got to hear some of it, which is brilliant. So thank you ever so much, Joe.
You're very welcome.
So that is to be noted. Councillor Parr, are you off? Are you staying?
No, I must leave at this point. I'm very sorry,
Okay.
Chairman.
No, it's fine. I was trying to whisper as much as I could.
Yes, you did well. I'm afraid I have to leave.
Okay, thank you ever so much, Councillor Parr. Giles,
Chair,
did you want to speak?
Yeah, Chair. Yeah, thank you, Chair. So that now means that the meeting is no longer quorate.
Yeah.
I'm just going to quote the page 110 of the current Constitution, paragraph 7, which says, during any meeting, if the Chair counts the number of members present and declares there is not a quorum present, then the meeting will adjourn immediately. Remaining business will be considered at a time and date fixed by the Chair. If they do not fix a date, the remaining business will be considered at the next ordinary meeting. So that would be the rest of the agenda items being considered in June.
June, okay. I would just like to ask John, whilst he's here, are you happy for these to go to the next meeting in June, or would you like a meeting in between? Because I'm just aware that this happened last time, and do we need one in between to catch up almost? you know, it's important we go through these things.
Chair, sorry. Sorry, John. I was only wondering whether if everybody's available, you literally reconvene the meeting, same time, same place next Thursday.
I can't do next Thursday.
Okay.
I'm really sorry.
Also, just to say, just perhaps while we discuss this, if I can just end the live stream for YouTube now that we're no longer quorate.
Yes,
so if I just do that briefly, and then I'll let you know.